Hello, everyone. It's another day of interesting conversation, but in a slightly different way. We're going to pretend that half of us are on TV and half of us are on radio, and you'll be able to tell who's who in just a minute. I'm going to bring onto the screen the voice of one of the most important people in my early young adulthood, because he was one of my theater directors getting my theater degree. So when you think about people who've seen you sometimes at your best and sometimes at your worst, Jim Bartruff would be in that camp for good or for bad. So let's bring Jim on, and we'll see at some point we may be able to restore Jim's face. But lucky you, you're going to get to hear the voice that I got to listen to for 4 years as a young actor, getting better and better, hopefully under his tutelage. Hello, Jim.
Yes. Hi, Dana. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great, and you look great.
Thank you.
And I
You
think
sound
maybe the
great.
thing with the camera is maybe I'm not looking so great, but I feel great.
Well, and you sound great. So that's really all that matters
Well,
for
thank you very much.
what we're doing. So Jim, you and I were every day connected in
Yes.
such a unique time in any person's life, that transition from kind of true childhood to young adulthood, 18 to 22, give or take.
Mhm.
Those are really important years where you really need the advice and guidance and mentorship and kindness of grown-ups to kind of help usher you along from one phase of life to the next. And you did that so beautifully, not just for me, but for all of us in that theater program at what was then MSU in Moorhead.
Yes. I'm I'm in awe of your grace and your kindness. I hope that I was able to help make that transition for many people. I'm grateful to learn that, at least from you, I have, and from others that I've heard from over the years.
Yeah.
But it means so much to me to hear those words today. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, and they're very heartfelt. So I have to ask you this, since you first met me at 18, does it make you feel shockingly old that I'm turning 50?
It, yes and no. Yes, in that means that I'm still 20 years older than that, which is baffling to me because I certainly don't feel it. And if you could see me, you would definitely see that I don't look it. So that's good.
I agree. I've seen you over the years. You do not look 20 years older than I do. I would agree.
Thank you. And the other part is that I think age is all relative, and that in my mind and in my sense of self, I'm still the teenager that I've always been. And I think that was a realization that didn't come to me until later on, maybe around the time that I was 50. That I said, I feel so great. I feel healthy. I feel, energetic. I feel alive. I don't feel any different than I did when I was, a lot younger. So that's good to know.
Absolutely. And I love that point about age being relative. I mean, I suppose at some point, perhaps towards the end, it starts to feel different than it does when you're in it and thriving and pursuing the way that you and I both are. But yeah, whatever 50 is supposed to look and feel like, I don't know that anybody gets to 50 and says, oh, yes, I recognize this. This is 50. What is 50?
Yes.
50 is just a number.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we are so, as a culture, we are so driven by numbers.
Yeah, it's an interesting, weird thing, and driven by small numbers. You want people to be younger, not older, when in actuality, the beauty of
But
getting
you
older.
can still hear me.
Oh,
Oh,
there
now
you
you're
are.
back. Now you're back.
Oh, this is just one of the many, many interesting challenges that come with being your own technician. Okay.
Was frozen.
So Jim, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and you just answer them however you would like to. But I'm curious to know, above and beyond what you've already shared with us about sort of getting to 50 and thinking, oh, I'm as young as I've ever felt. What are one or two of the most important lessons that you learned before 50 that have really served you well post 50?
Well, I think because of the family that I was raised in and because of the friends that I naturally latched onto as I was growing, the one thing I learned that was most important was to respect other people. That other people help frame your life, they help to define your life, they give a context to your life, they help you with your successes, they guide you through your failures, and it's really vital that you respect them. And to that end, as an educator, I always thought that one of my biggest tasks was to listen, was to keep my door open and be available, because teaching didn't just take place in the classroom, it took place in offices and hallways and outside the building. And I think those two lessons I learned probably through my father and through Lindy's father, both of whom were pastors. And it was just a natural gift that they had. And I admired that in them. And perhaps I mirrored that behavior myself.
Oh, let me promise you, not perhaps, definitively. When you said to keep your door open and be available, I don't know that I could have said that, but that defines you in my experience better than anything else that could be defined. You have many, many great qualities, Jim, but that absolutely is like I don't even exactly know how to say it, but that absolutely is you. Your door was never shut. Never, never.
Well, it was once or twice when I had to promise the person that I was listening to that there could be some quiet and they could feel that there was some privacy. But yeah, I carried that throughout my career. I can't see how we can be involved in a field that is all about communication and not making yourself available to communicate. So that's a valuable lesson that I learned. And I think maybe the other thing that maybe this was a little bit later in coming, but by the time I reached 50, I learned that you can choose to be happy. You can choose to be sad. You can choose to be downtrodden. You can choose to be celebratory. You can choose to be celebrated. You can choose your path. And some days you're tired and you want to choose to be grumpy, and that's okay. But that grumpiness ultimately gives way to your choice to be joyful and full of bliss.
Jim, you're like a motivational poster in the very best sense of the word. I want to put up the quote, the point from Randy Stoll, another important person from this same period of my life who will be on with his husband, Bill, later on in the 50 days process.
Yay!
Hello, Dana. So great to hear both your lovely voices. Fantastic to see you too, Randy. I'm delighted to have you here. Okay, so those are, wow. It's interesting. A lot of the people this week, Jim, have really touched on, in various ways or another, how about we just be kind?
Yeah.
Which is in essence what you are talking about too. I think you're never really going to lose if you take the high road of kindness. You might feel like you're losing in the moment, but you're never going to lose in the long run.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of the moment, that's the other part that I guess I knew instinctively, but I never had the words to put it, to fully understand it, is that if you don't live in the moment, you're wasting an opportunity. Yeah. The past is the past. You can't change any of that. The future is going to unfold as it will. But this moment, this one right now, me and you talking together, is a moment that will never be revisited. And you got to treasure it because you don't know how long uh, um, how long the association you have, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yep.
So treasure it.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to put this up from my mother.
Mhm.
I wish I had known you were being educated by someone of this quality. I've always known of Jim Bartruff. I did not know about Jim Bartruff. Lucky Moorhead State, and no, I won't adapt to the change. Lucky to tell Val.
That sounds like a mom.
Yes, it does. And
Yeah.
someone who, pre-MSUM, the only reason I adapted is because I taught there post it. And so my
Yeah.
students, when I would say something about MSU, they would say to me, where did you go to school? So I had to make the switch. But yeah, those of us who are from that pre-MSUM era, it's tough to add the M.
Well, I went to Kearney State College, which is now the University of Nebraska at Kearney, and I had the same issue. I'm a KSC grad. I'm not a UNK grad.
Right, right.
And even when I left Moorhead State and I went to Emporia State, it was before I got there, Emporia State Teachers College, and still there are many people who still refer to it as ESTC, and real old timers who remember it as the Kansas Normal School. So,
sure.
I think a lot of institutions have gone through those name changes, and for those who are connected at a specific period of time, it will forever be that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Next question for you. If you could go back, and this sort of defeats the point you just made about you can't go back to the past, but if you could go back, what advice would you give yourself that you know now that you wish you'd known, say, as a young faculty member or a young performer?
Yeah, I said, don't be obsessed with success. You have to have the failures in order to appreciate when you do get successes. I was lucky, and I was cast in the first play that I tried out for in college, and I thought it would all be that easy. I learned that it wasn't, but it goes back to what I was saying earlier about this moment is the one that's most important. Do the best that you can in this moment, and the rest will take care of it. So, I wish I would not have stopped taking my piano lessons. And I wish I had learned how to play a bar chord on the guitar earlier in my life so that it would be easier at this stage of my life. I guess I also wish that I had read more, which is interesting because I was connecting with people in an interpersonal way, but not connecting with myself in an intrapersonal way. So I wasn't allowing myself the opportunity to grow in ways that were available to me that maybe I should have selfishly taken more time to do. I regret that I have not read as many great works as I sometimes feel I should, but I think we're all in that boat. But I'm slowly catching up. I'm reading more assiduously now. I just, in fact, finished a book last night that actually I brought it with me.
Oh,
because there was something in the book that was worth sharing. The book is Madly Deeply, The Diaries of Alan Rickman.
I have seen it. I've seen it advertised.
Well, read it.
Okay.
Get it at the library or borrow it from a friend, but whatever, do it. Because I've kept a journal since 1974. I write in it every day. Some days I write in great detail about all kinds of things. Some days it's just, this is what the weather was, this is what I ate, this is how much weight I lost or gained or whatever. Some days are fairly introspective, where you really kind of re-examine, why am I at this place in this moment? And so before sleeping last night, I was finishing up the book, and it ends just before his death in 2016, obviously. About a month before he died, he had just been under treatment for pancreatic cancer for about 3 months. And his wife and his publisher who edited his diaries included an earlier journal entry from the 1980s that wasn't included in the rest of the book. and it kind of encapsulated what the whole book was about for me, and in a way reflects where I'm at this stage in my life. This is what he wrote. God, if your soul's a mess, the mind goes scurrying around some pretty dark corridors. There was a part of me which has never left childhood. I must somehow locate it and tell it to grow up fast. I shall continue to settle for the nearest womb all the time. Relationships, friends, the flat bed. I exaggerate as ever, but in recognizing that I constantly move in two directions at the same time, I should remind myself that things can be changed. This is a guy in 1981. He was at the time in his early 30s. But that's a great deal of insight from a man who I learned in the book. I was always a huge fan. He was one of the first actors that I saw on stage in England. He was playing Jaques in As You Like It.
Okay.
It was a marvelous production, and he stood out as being particularly memorable. Of course, any Jaques from As You Like It is going to stand out as memorable. But to be introduced to him, 30 years before Snape was great. Yeah. And he recognizes that Snape was both a gift and a curse in his life, just as any role that he undertook. Yeah. But he always wanted to understand why it was that way. And he kept asking questions to himself about, why does it bother me that Emma Thompson is so bossy? And yet I still love her so much. I didn't mean for this to be a commercial, but it's a great book for anybody, especially who's in the theater, who understands what acting is all about and why actors are so crazy.
So complex. Let's go with complex.
Yeah, okay, complex. That'll work. I like that.
I'll put that in quotation marks. That'll let people interpret it how they choose. All right. My last question for you is, what have been the joyful aspects of being 50 plus? And you don't need to list all of them, but what are the highlights? What pops out at you?
Well, I think the fact that I'm here celebrating this moment turns out to be one of the most joyful things in my life. Certainly the most joyful thing was the day that I was married. And it still stands out as an important and life-affirming and embracing. I mean, we just celebrated our 42nd wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
So yeah, thanks. The fact that I'm healthy, the fact that I can still throw a ball, that I can ride a bike 20 miles a day and not feel too exhausted by it, but just enough. Yeah. The fact that I've managed to maintain that journal that I mentioned every day for almost 50 years now. I have boxes in a storage facility in Emporia, Kansas. I'm still trying to figure out a way to reconnect some of those things, which I realize I don't need on a day-to-day basis, but would like to get some of them back in the same place where I am. At 50, I had directed almost 70 plays. I had acted in about 30. I had stage managed 8 productions. I had written 7 or 8 plays, most of which were actually performed. And so as I reflect back now, I realize I had accomplished much more than I thought that I was at the time. Mm-hmm. It might be one of the benefits of age as well, that looking back on my teen self, I thought, I'm lost. Where am I going? What am I going to do with my life? Will anybody care? And yet now that I have had a chance to look back and reflect, I'm going, wow, I did some stuff. And I, as your kind words said at the beginning of our little chat, I've left a mark with some people and helped them to become the persons that they were supposed to be. And it was nice to have a little hand in that.
Yeah. Oh, I love those answers. So you get quoted from me often because you had a sign in your office right above your desk that I feel like it was from Mark Twain.
Yes.
Said, better to in essence, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. Better to keep your mouth shut and be thought a fool than to open it and confirm it.
Yeah, or better to keep your mouth shut and appear stupid than open it and remove all doubt.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
And I say it to myself more often than I wish I needed to, often after I've said something. And I say it to other people because I can remember sitting in the chair next to the door and you were on your weird no back chair
My
thing.
backless chair. Yeah.
Yes. And I can see that sign so clearly in my head. And with the bravado and whatever you want to say, I had at 2021, thinking how really pretty remarkable I was.
You were confident, which is something that you've always carried and which I cherish in you. That is an attribute, and you need to be proud of it.
Well, thank you. It's occasionally misplaced, but I will accept the compliment. But
that's true of all of us.
I remember looking at that and thinking, well, everything out of my mouth is really pretty profound, so I don't need to pay any attention to that. So one of the things that I have learned over time is, if you have to claim yourself to be profound, you might have missed the mark just a bit. So I have appreciated that and appreciated that I got it from you all these years, and also appreciated that at no point in our entire relationship did you ever simply do this to me, Dana. Never did that to me. So I'm going to continue to stay connected to you because you have been so important. And I love that you joined me. And I'm sorry that we didn't get to see you, but your words rang through beautifully. And that was what I was really, really counting on from you today, Jim.
Well, thank you, Dana. It means a lot to me that that you felt strongly enough about our relationship that you wanted to include me.
Yeah.
It is humbling in some ways to look over the course of a career. And it was 40 some years before my retirement during COVID, which was weird in and of itself.
Yeah.
But to see on Facebook, to hear in text, on the phone, whatever, that things that I said, that I did, that I helped people accomplish are meaningful and memorable. And wow, nothing could be finer than that.
Well, then we can both leave this call feeling delighted and content with our day because we are lucky indeed. Thank you so much for joining me, Jim. I appreciate the insight and I appreciate our long history.
Thank you, Dana.
Everyone else, I will see you tomorrow because this just is never going to end. I'll see you then. Bye.